They were naked and participating in a ritual. Massetto was tied to a rock and was blindfolded. But Ginevra took her clothes off and joined the coven. Hey guys, movie recap here. This time, I'll show you the movie, The Little Hours, from 2017. Warning. This video has spoilers. Let's dive right into it. We start at a countryside landscape, where a nun-looking woman is dragging a donkey through a field. She was indeed a nun. She put on her robes before arriving at a church with the donkey. Her name was Fernanda. She then met another nun, who asked her why was she wearing her black robes, considering it was spring. A man arrives and salutes the nuns, but they both reject him and tell him to get the hell out of there. We then see the nun community entering the chapel to attend a mass. One of the sisters questioned Fernanda about leaving the convent that morning, but Fernanda answered that she was chasing the donkey. We then see the two nuns speaking about another sister, complaining that she shouldn't be allowed to do what she wanted just because her father gave money to the convent. We follow the sister that was causing the complaints, Alessandra. She met with her father inside the convent and asked him to stop funding the convent and take her with him. The father knew she didn't want to be there and wanted to get married, but told her that giving less money or getting her out of the convent would damage his family's reputation. We then see Alessandra at Mass, crying during communion. Fernanda and her friend asked Alessandra about her father's visit but got interrupted because they spotted the man they had rejected before. The three nuns insulted and punched him because they said he was a useless creep who spent his days staring at the nuns. The man complained to the priest of the convent. He said the nuns had spitted on him and called him a Jew. Later we go into a castle, where the master of the place was having dinner with his wife. The man spoke loudly to have his wife's attention, but the woman was secretly flirting with one of the servants. We see both of them laying in bed together afterward. After doing it for a while, they complained because the master spoke too much. They thought he was asleep, but the guy entered the room and caught his wife in the act. The servant got out through the window and went to his room, but the master was able to spot him. He cut some of his hair, to be able to know who he was in the morning. The servant, Massetto, cut hair from his partner to try and deceive the master. The master questioned the servants one by one. However, he was unable to determine which was the guilty one. Later, we see the master having lunch with his wife, complaining about her and speaking about another woman. The wife didn't pay attention and flirted with Massetto again. The wife went out of the castle and kissed him, unaware of her husband watching everything from the top of the castle's walls. He ordered his guards to kill him, but Massetto managed to escape. He ran away as far as he could, and eventually found a river. The priest of the convent and the donkey were there. The priest was trying to recover some fabrics he had lost in the river. The priest was drunk, so Massetto offered to help him recover the clothes and set his cart well. The priest offered Massetto a place to stay as a way of thanking him. On their way, the priest explained that he started drinking wine because he had no water. He took Massetto to a small house and offered him a piece of bread and a glass of wine. They got drunk, and then the priest heard Massetto's confession. Massetto revealed the things he had been doing with the master's wife, and the priest answered that his sins were sodomy and adultery. Massetto was scared because he didn't want to get caught by his master, so the priest offered him to go to work in the convent. Priest Tommasso took Massetto to the convent and introduced him as a deaf mute. He was going to replace the guy that the nuns were bothering earlier. The priest also said that he had lost the fabric because some thieves had taken everything. The sister bought it. We then see Massetto working around the convent. Sister Ginevra, Fernanda's friend, went to say hi to him and asked him what he was doing. Massetto played the role as if he couldn't hear or speak anything. Later, Sister Fernanda was sweeping the convent's floor when Sister Alessandra showed up with a young girl. Fernanda never missed an opportunity to pick on Alessandra. She enjoyed bothering her. The women discussed but got interrupted because they both saw Massetto. Fernanda grabbed an axe and asked Massetto who he was and why was he there. Massetto didn't say a word, and another sister had to explain the situation. That same sister went for a walk with Alessandra. She told her that the priest had lost the fabrics on his trip. Massetto kept on working at the convent and all the nuns were trying to be aware of what he was doing. One of the nuns hid while Alessandra entered the Massetto's room, the tool shed. She asked him to repair the mold that she used for the fabrics. Alessandra confessed that she didn't want to be there and that she hated the rest of the nuns. Later, after another mass, Sister Ginevra had her confession heard by Priest Tommasso. She confessed that she was having impure thoughts. Fernanda also did her confession but was unwilling to tell everything. Massetto and Priest Tommasso met again at night to have dinner. The priest told Massetto that the nuns were dangerous and had a history of attacking and assaulting people. Tommaso said that it would be a perfect challenge for Massetto. Massetto asked the priest if it wasn't bad that they were drinking the sacramental wine. Tommaso just answered that it was cool because he had blessed it. Later that night, we see Fernanda saluting her friend Marta, who had sneaked in to be there that night. Fernanda stole some wine from priest Tommaso and went to Alessandra's room to drink. Sister Ginevra also showed up. The other women invited her in to drink the sacramental wine. They soon got drunk and started singing. Marta didn't like that so much, but the three nuns were happy. After a while, Marta asked the nuns if a man had ever touched them. She described that as the best feeling in the world. Alessandra fell asleep, and the other three women kissed. The next day, Alessandra goes to where Massetto is working to clean his sweat. She says it is warm and takes off the robes from her head. She was attracted to Massetto and kissed him a few times. She said she was sorry and left for Mass. At Mass, Fernanda sees some dirt on Alessandra's fingernails. Fernanda was still tired because of the last night's events. Ginevra told her she had a good time, but Fernanda wasn't in the mood to talk. Alessandra showed up and looked extremely happy. Later, we see Fernanda with her friend Marta elaborating on some kind of potion. They intend to seduce Massetto. Fernanda and Marta went to the shed to kiss and tease Massetto. They gave him some potion. Ginevra saw them leaving the shed and asked Fernanda about what were they doing there. She also asked Fernanda if last night had meant anything to her. Fernanda said it didn't mean anything, and Ginevra looked affected by the answer. The following day, we see another priest arriving at the convent. He is Bishop Bartolomeo. Massetto wasn't wasting any time and went to Alessandra's workshop to be with her. They almost got caught by two of the sisters in the bishop. Massetto hid under a bed and then escaped before anyone noticed him. Sister Ginevra went to the bishop, priest Tommaso and another nun to betray Fernanda and give her away. She said that she had learned a few bad things about her. Ginevra told the other nun that Fernanda was a liar. She wanted to be in charge of the donkey. We then see her making the same potion that Fernanda prepared before. Or at least she tried. Alessandra went to the shed to question Massetto because she had heard him speaking earlier. He revealed that he wasn't a deaf mute, but Sister Ginevra showed up. Alessandra hid. Ginevra got on top of Massetto and kissed him. She also told him that she liked women better and also that she was a Jew. She was tripping, thinking that she was seeing angels. Ginevra also hid and found Alessandra. Fernanda also entered the room and tied Massetto. She took him out through the woods with the donkey, with Alessandra and Ginevra following them. After a while, they reached a clearing in the forest. There was a bunch of women dancing around a fire. They were naked and participating in a ritual. Massetto was tied to a rock and was blindfolded. Alessandra was shocked because of the witches, but Ginevra took her clothes off and joined the coven. Fernanda and Marta were performing a ritual on Massetto. He spoke, and they thought they had cured him. Meanwhile, the women around the fire discovered Ginevra with her dance moves. Ginevra freaked out and started hitting the women around her with a stick. She knocked Marta out. Alessandra also showed up and stopped Fernanda in the middle of the ritual. They went after Ginevra, who grabbed the donkey and took it to the convent. She left it outside of Bishop Bartolomeo's room. Fernanda and Alessandra arrived at the convent. The three of them started accusing and complaining about each other to the bishop. Massetto was also there, so the bishop realized he could hear and speak. Priest Tommaso emerged and said it was a miracle. The next day, the bishop read all of Ginevra's sins in front of her in the chapel. He had a list of about a dozen sins and said her punishment was to skip lunch for a year. Then it was Alessandra's turn. The bishop just said that he knew her father. After that came Fernanda. The bishop also read her sins. Priest Tommaso asked the bishop to blame him for everything that happened in the convent. The bishop took away his priesthood and forced him to become a monk. We then see Massetto returning to the castle. The guards asked him if sleeping with the master's wife was worth it. He was imprisoned as a punishment. Fernanda, Alessandra, and Ginevra returned to their routines but were all sad. They sat together and asked for forgiveness. Fernanda told them that she intended to turn them and make them become witches. They wondered if Massetto was in line for execution. We go to Massetto's cell, where the master visits him. The master tells him he was going to marry again with another woman. He thanked Massetto for this and allowed him to live a little longer to torture him. Massetto asked his guard friends to let him out, but they refused. The guards then saw a turtle with a candle on and followed it. It was a distraction from the three nuns, who were there to liberate him. The nuns left a dummy in his cell and dressed him up as if he was another nun. They left the castle and escaped to the convent. We then see the other nun using the donkey to escape and meet with Tommaso. Fernanda almost saw them, but they managed to hide and kissed each other afterward. Would you go to work in this convent? What would you do if you find a group of witches? Let us know in the comments. This was the recap for the movie, The Little Hours, from 2017. Hope you enjoyed it. See you for the next one.